Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by the Lines and Play Picks, coming to you from Oakland, California. Josh Lander, joined by my counterpart on the East Coast, Nate Weitzer, who's got another great article up for y'all with some best bets for today, Wednesday, January the 13th. We've got an 8-game slate, 2 games postponed due to COVID, which we'll continue to monitor for you guys. Nate, let's just jump right into that slate and give everyone the lines.
Yep. So we have the Mavs -4 at Hornets. Porzingis expected to make his debut tonight. Bucks -10 at Pistons. Nets -6 at the Knicks. KD expected to play on the back-to-back. Kyrie Irving out indefinitely. Grizzlies +3.5 at Wolves. Karl Anthony Towns expected to play. Lakers -8 at Thunder. Anthony Davis legitimately questionable. Hawks +6 at Suns. Pelicans all the way up to +7.5 now at Clippers, and the Blazers -4 at Kings. The Wolves and Grizzlies, it's set at 220.5 some places right now. Yes, Karl Anthony Towns will play, which definitely gives the Wolves a better chance to win. I don't think he's necessarily going to go crazy against Jonas Valanciunas, and obviously the rest of the Wolves offense not exactly inspiring. Memphis is playing at the second slowest pace, with the second worst offensive rating and the second best defensive rating over the last week. Both these teams struggling. They're 22nd and 25th in offense during that span, and the Grizzlies 2-7 against the over since their opener. So what do you think about that pick?
Yeah, man, it sucks that the Grizzlies lost, that we don't have any Triple J or John Moran action. They were going to be such a great League Pass team. Instead, they're this choppy, muck it up kind of team, with Kyle Anderson being sort of the mantra that they live by in terms of how he plays. So I'm staying away from this game entirely. If I took anything, it would be the under. I want to see how Cat comes back, similarly to how I want to see how KP comes back for the Mavs before I bet on anything to do with them. I kind of just want to see how the stars come back and fit in. Something we'll talk about later. KD came back last night, fit in very well. That worked out, so that was something we both stayed away from to monitor, similar to this situation. So I'm going to see how they play with Cat. There was a little bit of addition by subtraction when he went out, is when they did. Obviously, it was only 1 or 2 games with him, but they started to show a little bit more, opening up some things for their guards. And it really just comes down to does D'Lo make shots, and then that's how we determine if this team scores points. So it's too much of a coin flip for me, but the under would be the only thing I would take there. Taking it to another game that actually has a really low over-under, depending on how you like it. The Thunder are hosting the Lakers tonight, both on the second leg of a back-to-back. And really the thing I'm going to focus on here is the fact that, FanDuel, like most of us, doesn't expect AD to play. So if you're on FanDuel, you can find some good props for LBJ in terms of 41.5 points, rebounds, and assists. I like the over there. On the second leg of back-to-backs this season, he's actually averaging slightly over that. So there hasn't been much of a drop-off. And then when you see AD take a seat, obviously that means he's going to have a larger chunk of the offense. You can look at his assist numbers there. But just to be safe, I do like the over 31.5. 41.5 over points, rebounds, assists for LBJ. And then the only other thing I would consider there is the over. I think you're seeing a little bit of undervalue in terms of the 215 as the total. I would take the over there because of the fact that the Lakers don't play as well on D without AD in the lineup, if you do expect him to sit. And I think, we can talk about the Dennis Schroeder revenge game if you want, coming back to the Thunder. I think he'll put up numbers, and then as I think you'll talk about some DFS stuff, but there's plenty of options and points and rebounds and assists to clean up with AD on the bench for some other Lakers players.
Yeah, I think that's a savvy move, just kind of forecasting that AD will eventually sit on one of these back-to-backs. If you grab the over, that's a good way to hedge it without depending on the Lakers to sustain the success. I mean, I think you could see a kind of a trap here after they blow out the Rockets, and then a frisky Thunder team comes in and covers that 9-point spread. Not ready to trust that the Lakers are giving a full throttle effort every night in the regular season. Speaking of not trusting teams, the Los Angeles Clippers hosting the well-rested Pelicans, and this is another game we're looking at the total. 220 right now is pretty low for some really potent offensive teams. I know the Clippers haven't been playing with much pace, but they are a very efficient shooting team, and the Pelicans' strategy with Stan Build-A-Wall Van Gundy is literally just pack the paint. They give up the most threes per game. They're giving up 46% of their points scored on three-pointers. So that's why I'm liking Kawhi. I'm liking Paul George, Serge Ibaka in DFS lineups tonight, and that's why I'm liking this game to get over. I think you'll see Zion unleashed a little bit with some extra rest, and I think the Pelicans can keep pace at least and make this an interesting game. Possibly cover that 7.5 point spread, which is climbing.
Yeah, I would agree. Mostly because I think the Clippers have also shown that they have had some weak spots on defense, which is very surprising for that team. But yeah, the Pellies are showing a little bit of regression as we've seen. Not necessarily in their defensive numbers. They're staying true to, as you said, packing the paint with that lineup that includes Adams, Williamson, and Brandon Ingram all in there. But it's not working out in a league where everyone's happy to pull threes regardless. So which makes it a real coin flip a lot of times when you're just really depending on those threes, and they haven't been able to show that, especially with that big lineup, that they can hit threes consistently enough to stay in games. I'm going to stay away from it as well, but once again, I do agree with you in terms of having that much firepower on the Clippers. And in terms of the over, a couple quick hits as we mentioned. KD, we're gonna see no Kyrie again tonight. I don't expect much from him to decline in terms of playing on the second leg of this back-to-back. He's going to be the focal point of the offense with a phenomenal sidekick in Karis LeVert on the offensive end. Right now, I'm seeing KD's props for points, rebounds, and assists combined at 42.5. If you can find it around there, anything under around 45, I would still take that for him. Expect potentially another 30-point game, to boost those numbers up. And then one thing I just wanted to touch on the last quick hit was, as I mentioned, Dallas Charlotte. I'm just staying away from it, but we're definitely keeping an eye on it tonight. And there are some things to watch for in terms of how well Charlotte's playing. Both Gordon Hayward, obviously LaMelo Ball is someone that you want to look at every night in DFS. His value has been brought up from what it was. You might not be able to find him around 5,000, 5,200 anymore, but you can definitely still find value inserting him in your lineup. Do you have a couple other DFS things for us?
Yeah, I mean, you got to think about the Mavs being shorthanded still on the wing. So Tim Hardaway Jr., Trey Burke, pretty confident plays at their price tags. I like the bring back with LaMelo there. As we mentioned the Dennis Schroeder revenge angle, especially if AD sits, he's going to see a spike in usage. So he's a good mid-tier play. Carmelo, very, very cheap right now, coming off a pretty big game against the Kings' dead last defense. Could see a boost in minutes if Nurkic sits. He's got a quad injury. And then, yeah, bringing it back to that Pelicans-Clippers game, there's some intriguing stacks there with Kawhi and maybe 2 or 3 even Pelicans, because we're seeing Lonzo Ball out. So Eric Bledsoe also dealing with an eye injury, which could limit him if he plays. So I think you're going to see Redick and Josh Hart get a lot of minutes, and those guys are dirt cheap on both sites.
Love that. And the only thing I'll add is there's a couple guys, as you mentioned, the Lakers game, if AD does sit. Markieff Morris does see an increase in numbers, as will Kyle Kuzma. I think Marcus Gasol will probably see a little bit less time tonight after playing around 20 minutes in last night's game, the old Spaniard. So, a couple guys there that you might find some value as well. That's all the time we have for today, Nate. We're going to keep you guys updated, as we always say. Please like and subscribe. Jump in the comments. I'm having some fun talking to you guys in there and seeing what bets you're putting up. I believe Tony had a pretty good bet last night that worked out in that Golden State Warriors game. So as we said, keep it up, and we'll keep bringing you this stuff every day. Happy betting, and see y'all tomorrow.